it's Bumbleberry, and welcome back to Seduce Me Too. Last time, Matthew and Mika had a nice snuggle session, and so this time we shall continue. The morning came at last, rising me from my sleep. Surprisingly, I was full of energy, ready to go and to take on the day's training. However, I quickly realized that I was alone. Huh? Matthew? I sat up and looked around, not seeing him anywhere in the room. Worry crept into my mind. What if he left to do something he was influenced to do? What if he tried to figure out a way to force the influence out of him? I gripped my bedsheet to remove it from my body when I looked up to see the door swing open, revealing Matthew holding 2 plates of food for me. Oh my gosh. The amount of happiness in both senses. A, that Matthew's okay. B, he's bringing me foodstuffs. That is awesome.
Good morning!
How dare you scare me that way? I hope we throw a pillow at his face. I became dumbstruck. Matthew? What was up with him and why was he up so early? He wasn't exactly an early bird. Matthew grinned as he walked over and presented a plate of delicious-looking fruit, eggs, bacon, toast, and pancakes I had ever seen. Oh my gosh, we're going to get fat. It's going to be awesome. My mouth went agape at the mere sight and smell, and I slowly took it from Matthew's hands. Matthew? When did you make this?
This morning, duh! When else would I have been able to make it?
I looked up at him. He seemed happy and cheerful despite everything that happened the night before. Did he manage to drive out the influence? As I noticed the dark circles under his eyes, I could tell that night had become somewhat of a struggle, so maybe that was indeed the case. Still, something in my gut pressed me to be cautious. Something wasn't entirely right about this situation, even though seeing Matthew being happy made me happy too. I slowly began to dig in, savoring every delicious bite and almost forgetting my worries about it. Wow, this is amazing! Matthew let out a happy sigh and nodded.
Awesome. Well, I'm gonna go to training now.
Okay, I love you. I suddenly shook my head, trying to take in what he had just said. He was going to training now? I looked at him as he began to turn around, holding out an arm for him. Whoa, 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 hold on there.
Bye!
Nope. Physically drag him back. Despite my protest, he left the room, practically skipping out of it. What the heck? What is he so cheery about? Something was now definitely wrong. I lowered my plate and stood, racing towards the door, but was stopped by Diana, who was about to step in.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Diana looked up and down at me before looking at the plate of food I had left on my bed. And then she looked at the plates she had in her hand, obviously meant for me and Matthew. Oh, you're so sweet. I shook my head. Diana didn't know Matthew was making me food? I became more and more worried. Diana stepped in and placed her plates on the nearby table, crossing her arms in concern.
All right. Do you now wish to tell me what is going on?
Do it. Betrays trust. I love it. I naturally bit my lip. I couldn't tell her, but something about this warning made me... something about this warning me that whatever was influencing Matthew could have gotten worse. I began to internally panic, but I kept a look of calm on my face. Matthew just made me breakfast. That's all.
When was this?
I grimaced, looking away. Apparently this morning. Dana shook her head and pressed her fingers into her temples, slowly exhaling an irritated sigh. I'd be annoyed too. If I'm putting up like 8,000 people I don't like in the middle of a war of a guy who killed my whole family, I'd be annoyed if A, they did not appreciate my breakfast, and B, they didn't tell me that one of them was being possessed.
That boy is seriously concerning me now.
Good. Don't call him a boy. Don't call him a boy. I actually wasn't going to choose that, but I'm like, yeah, that's a good point. I didn't mean to explode, but after hearing Matthew's worries the night before, I couldn't help but naturally defend him. Diana stared wide-eyed at me, most likely wondering where my sudden outburst came from. Even though I had vocally challenged her, Diana let out a sigh and crossed her arms.
Regardless, I'll have people watch over him. If he does anything out of the ordinary, I will be the first to know.
Cool. Awesome. Keep an eye on him, because he's crazy. Dana gave me a hard stare for a moment before turning and leaving the room. I became torn. Matthew didn't want help, but he so desperately needed it. What if this was all something I was overreacting from? What if he was hiding something vitally important? I gripped my head and shook it. Stop it. Stop it. Calm down. That's right. I had to calm down first. This wasn't going to be easy, but the truth would come out one way or another. I ate my food and prepared for the day, praying that I would not hear of Matthew killing someone. Why wouldn't you tell Diana? Anyway, I arrived at the Grand Hall, expecting to see Rabbit waiting for me. However, I didn't expect Diana to be there, locked in a heated argument with her. Ooh, I love it. Look at them. Bunny versus Panther. Or what is she? She's supposed to be no, not a wolf. I don't remember. Doesn't matter. I quickly hugged the wall, wondering what was going on before I peeked into the room.
Rabbit, what you are asking is impossible.
Impossible? How is liberating my kind impossible?
I know you wish to change the caste system, and I do as well. But it cannot be done overnight. Can you understand the consequences of such a sudden change?
What does it matter? We are days away from taking control of this world, and what we demand will become ultimate law. The world will listen and obey every word we say, every word you say.
You overestimate the power we would have, Rabbit.
I felt frozen. What was happening? I thought Diana was with Rabbit and wanting change. Why would she hesitate? Rabbit was fighting for a just cause. The arguing continued.
No, I am not overestimating our power. I know exactly what we should be able to accomplish. You are just too afraid to go through with it.
Afraid? Of course I'm afraid. Do you know what a sudden change in the system would do to everyone? What it would do to your kind?
We would be free.
You would be slaughtered!
Oh, yeah. I love it. Look at her and her glowing magnificence. I love angry Diana. As Diana's voice suddenly boomed, the air began to quake from it. I stared as Diana's form suddenly became covered with black and purple flame. Glowing gold eyes peered towards the suddenly fearful Rabbit.
Not everyone will be as kind as I am. Not everyone will unlock the chains of your people's limbs just because I demand it. What you demand will sign the death wish of every animal demon on this godforsaken plane. You know what happened in the human world when the slaves of that world demanded their freedom? Millions were slaughtered, and they are still not equal to other humans. Why not learn that lesson?
I was astonished. Was Diana seriously comparing animal demons to slaves of human worlds past? Rabbit stared, still fearful of this suddenly intimidating Diana, but watched as Diana slowly calmed down and let out a sigh.
I know that what I ask is beyond horrid, but you need to understand. A ruler can rule, but the people beneath them have voices and hands of their own, strong enough to disobey and do as they desire. I may demand the immediate liberation of your kind, but they may see liberation as a call to slaughter, out of desperation to keep what they believe is theirs. I swear on my bloodline that I will fix this caste system, but you cannot demand that I force it overnight, unless you desire the blood of your kind to spill over the earth.
Without giving Rabbit a chance to respond, Diana turned and marched towards the exit. Before I could react, she reached the doorway, seeing me and stopping in her tracks. She's like, I've had enough of your crap. She didn't say anything. She simply arched around me and left down the hall, lowering her head as she vanished around the corner. I turned back into the room to see Rabbit turn to face out of one of the large windows, gripping her staff to her body and biting her lower lip. This must have been so hard on her, but I wasn't exactly sure who to side with. Both had valid points. Rabbit and the other animals deserved to be free, but what if Diana's was right? Rabbit's people would be killed the minute Diana's liberating demand left her mouth. Even worse, they'd never be able to reach that equality Rabbit wanted. I could only grimace at the situation. It was a tough one, and who knew where it would go after the war. I was positive it would work out in the end, but I knew it would be a tough battle to face regardless of what they decided to do. Taking a breath, I walked in and made my way towards Rabbit as she lowered her head, placing a hand on her shoulder. Are you okay?
No. No, I am not.
Sorry, Boo. Rabbit took a deep breath and shook her head, wiping her eyes and smiling her usual kind smile to me, making me frown a bit at the sight.
I just thought that I could make a change in this war. But apparently not.
Rabbit. Rabbit stared at me, searching for something in my eyes before letting out a sigh and waving her staff to form a bluish mist in her hand. As it finally disappeared, see, this is why you need me as a copy editor, it revealed something I didn't expect to see. Ooh, a bracelet. I love it. And it, oh no, is that like a dog collar? Oh, that's bad. That's bad. Oh man. This is kind of fitting in the theme with like the collar, the blue collar. Anyway, in Rabbit's hands was a black and red iron collar, broken around the tag and on the back. That wasn't what sent a wave of shock down my spine, however. Around the inner border were metal spikes, dulled from rust and time, but I could tell that at one point they had been sharp enough to pierce the wearer's neck. What is this? Rabbit placed it on the windowsill with a sigh, staring intensely at it in remembrance.
That was my breeding collar.
What? I stared wide-eyed at Rabbit, understanding or at least putting together what that could have meant. She was a slave for breeding? As I stared, Rabbit let out a sad chuckle and shook her head.
I was born into a large family of animal demons. Rabbits like myself. However, we weren't born to have normal lives. We were bred to become slaves and servants to people like Diana.
I couldn't believe it. Did Diana own her at one point? It was horrid to think about, but Rabbit continued.
I was given just enough to live and survive by my parents until I became an adult. Then I was taken to a breeding brothel with a handful of my brothers and sisters. They said that my magic was desirable to pass to offspring.
Gross.
As part of the membership, they welded this onto my neck, hoping to keep me from being disobedient.
I'm sorry, lady. I instinctively rubbed my neck, disgusted at the story despite knowing that she was going to be okay in the end.
Of course, when they found out that I was still a virgin, they decided to instead use me to stimulate their clients and male slaves.
What does that mean? What? Rabbit ran her hand along the mask that covered her mouth, shutting her eyes and tracing the lines over her cheeks and down her chin.
The day they cut open my mouth was the day Diana rescued me from captivity. I didn't think I was going to survive, let alone have my face become normal ever again. But Diana did everything she could to heal my wounds and reverse what my keepers did to me.
I don't understand. Why did they cut her mouth? At that moment, Rabbit slipped 2 fingers into her mask and lowered it, revealing 2 scars that traveled from each edge of her lips across her cheeks like a wide smile. Ew, and 2 more scars down her jaw like a puppet's mouth? Who are your keepers, the Joker? I covered my mouth, unable to form any words, but unable to stop the gasp that erupted from my throat at the sight. Rabbit quickly covered her mouth with her mask again and looked out the window in longing.
I was brought back here with all of the slaves Diana had freed and was given care. I saw a deep compassion in Diana. She cared about people below her status and wanted everyone to be equal and free. So I joined the rebellion and eventually became a leader alongside.
Slowly, Rabbit's eyes began to turn from warm and longing to cold and angered.
At least that's what I thought.
What do you mean? Rabbit looked to me and gripped her staff in a white-knuckle grip, gritting her teeth before speaking and answering my question.
As soon as this war is over, Diana will take over and become queen of this world, unifying everyone under her banner. However, with that kind of power, she can change the way my people are treated. But she refuses to use her power to do so. She doesn't understand what we have gone through, what my people have had to endure for eons. We are bred to be slaves, servants, war fodder, and we have no say in the matter.
That
we
stinks.
deserve our freedom.
Yes.
We deserve to be free.
Okay.
We should not be forced to wait for her to come around to it.
Yeah. Although, I mean, to be fair, maybe we should defeat the big guy who's trying to kill everyone in general, and then we'll be like, yeah, everybody's free. Or we could be like, yeah, everybody's free, but not, like, kill anybody? Why is everyone going to kill all the rabbit people? I don't understand. If they get freed. Is it because they don't want to set them free? Because, like, as an American, obviously, like, the North, you know, when, like, the North and South were like, no, I don't want slaves. And then people were like, yes, slaves. And they were like, no, that's wrong. The South tried to break away. And the North was like, no, you can't do that. We're going to free people. And then, like, they didn't kill their slaves, though, the South, when they said that. They just tried to, like, keep them secretly, which was really bad and horrible. Anyway, long story. But I just feel like that's counterproductive to be like, well, if they want to be free, no one can have them. I don't know. Rabbit was very passionate about her desire for her demon kind. It was beyond admirable. However, Diana's warning echoed in my mind, reminding me of what she'd predicted if she decided to do as Rabbit asked. It was a difficult decision to be in. I understood Rabbit perfectly, but I also became fearful of Diana's prediction. Nobody listens to Diana. The demon world was a very different playing field than the human world, so I expected demons to be more ruthless about their traditions. It was hard to think about, but the situation revolved around both ends of the risk spectrum. It was right, but it could be deadly. Rabbit shook her head, letting out a sigh.
I'm sorry. I shouldn't be telling you this. It was a private matter, and...
It's all right. It's okay. I understood perfectly. The situation was indeed a mess, but something told me that they would be able to figure it out. Rabbit and Diana were smart women, after all. Rabbit looked at me in surprise before smiling slightly and nodding.
Right.
Rabbit finally shook her head and let out a sigh.
Well, now that I'm done with my, business, shall we get to training?
Yeah, let's kill some things. Awesome. With a nod from me, we Sorry, I can't read sometimes. We spent the day forgetting about what had happened and focused on working on my stamina and power with my animal guardian, Senor Lionface. It became easier to direct, and it even became intelligent enough to defend me if something tried to sneak up behind me. I was thankful for my new companion and felt ready for the siege ahead. Siege. Ooh, I got an achievement, inequality. We don't want that. Nuh-uh, it's a picture of Rabbit. I quickly walked to my room, wanting to make it there before Matthew. As I turned the corner to my hall, where my room was in, however, a large number of shouts echoed.
Grab him! Don't let him get away!
What
Let
is he
go
doing?
of me!
Oh, Matthew, no. Why are you naked? Why are you naked? I stared wide-eyed as guards rushed into my bedroom and dragged Matthew out of it by his arms. I was even more surprised to see him slightly battered and covered in blood. What are you doing? What are you doing? Oh, Sam. I took a step forward to rush in and see what was going on, but a hand stopped me and pulled me back. I looked over and stared as Sam gripped my shoulder, glaring ahead at his brother. He actually has a little chainy thing. Do you think in his playthrough we'll find out why he has a bracelet? I don't know. Sam, what's going on?
Matthew did something really fucking stupid.
Tell it like it is, Sam. Ripping Sam's hand from my shoulder, I turned around and glared, almost snarling in anger. What do you mean? What did he do? Sam looked at me unfazed by my anger and walked forward ahead of me, following the group of soldiers and Matthew down the hall. I did the same, now desperate to know what was going on. We arrived at the Great Hall, and Matthew was tossed into the center of the room. Holy smokes! Rabbit had constructed a large magic circle. As Matthew fell to his hands and knees on it, the circle activated and formed a large barrier around him. What is happening? What is happening? Why are you in space? Okay, frantic Matthew rushed at the walls, slamming into them to hopefully be set free. He even formed multiple knives? What? And tried to tear through the walls, only ending up with them ricocheting and landing on the floor.
Release me! No!
No. Dude, calm down. Matthew! Oh, and look at Diana. She's probably like, this is where you deserve to be. I rushed forward, trying to touch the barrier, but I was forcefully pulled back by Irene and Iridessa. I flailed in their arms, struggling against their hold, but became still as Diana entered the room with a large, bloody handkerchief in her hand. Did he try to stab Diana?
You come into my castle, eat my food, rest in my rooms, and have the utter gall to kill one of my guards and try to steal war plans?
Yeah, that's bad. No, it couldn't have been. I stared at Matthew as he locked eyes with Diana, sneering and pressing up against the barrier.
Well, well, well. If it isn't the Queen of the Rebellion. I gotta tell you, you look like crap after all these years.
That's awkward. Diana's face remained stone cold as she passed the handkerchief to one of the nearby guards and stepped forward, pressing her hand to the barrier. If this is what Diana looks like when she's, like, bad, man, does she have a good bad day.
Lux.
What is happening? On her word, the barrier suddenly began to brighten with lightning, shocking Matthew within it. I love it. Come on, Matthew. Matthew, no! I mean, we need to get him unpossessed. Can we please just tell Diana what's going on? Anyway, I began to struggle more, wanting this to stop. Soon enough it did as Diana pulled her hand away from the barrier and glared into it. Matthew, having been electrocuted, fell to his hands and knees, panting wildly.
I can smell you, Demon Lord.
Ooh, gross. I froze. The Demon Lord? He was behind this? I thought it was his mother, but the Demon Lord? I looked back at Matthew, seeing him chuckle despite being in utter pain.
You figured me out, huh? You may have locked me away in my castle, but my bond to my blood is unbreakable.
Why didn't he try to get Eric? Why did he choose Matthew? Matthew pounced off the ground and slammed into the barrier wall, grinning from ear to ear at Diana.
And when you come, I will be ready. I know all of your little plans, and will make sure that I completely destroy your precious army, one pathetic soldier at a time. Once I do, I'll make Zakeru my heir, and finally take over the rest of this godforsaken plane, for good.
It feels like, oh, evil Diana, golden eyes. This time, however, Diana smirked and tapped the barrier between Matthew's eyes, her irises brightening to a sadistic gold color.
And this is where you fail in war, Demon Lord. Who said we ever wrote anything down about our plans?
Matthew stared up astonished at Diana before snarling madly.
You're lying!
Test me, mongrel. I will prove it on the day we lay siege upon your pathetic castle and dominate your puny army.
Despite how twisted the situation was, the rebel leaders and guards in the room began to nod and smirk at Matthew in agreement with Diana's words. Diana, however, pressed her face against the barrier.
And I swear to you, this war will end with you dying by the hands of a succubus.
Yeah! Although why is she getting so close to him? I mean, just in case. I wouldn't put my face on the barrier, you know? The guards around Diana cheered as Matthew continued to glare hard at her, clawing at the barrier wall to try to get to her to no avail. Diana straightened back up and scoffed.
As for your son, we'll need to do a little surgery.
No. Surgery? Surgery. Do you guys know what that's from? A reference? Anyway, it's from a musical. Anyway, I pulled at Irene's and Iridessa's hands, staring at Diana like she was on Madwoman. Surgery? What the heck did she mean? Oh, dear. Without another word, Diana placed her hand on the barrier and sent another wave of electric shocks into the barrier before Matthew finally passed out entirely. No! At last, Iridessa and Irene released me, letting me rush forward and kneel at the barrier, pressing my hands against it and peering in to see Matthew lying unconscious on the floor. How are Iridessa and Irene able to hold me if I have the power of a frickin' lion that I can just be like, whooshy whoosh? But I guess I wanted to see what happened. Anyway, I looked up at Diana and she turned and glared. I glared at her? Okay. Why did you do that? Diana glared back at me before turning away from me, crossing her arms.
Why did you hide this from me?
Exactly. Because I'm stupid about promises. No, I deserve an explanation. Dude, somebody got killed that she's friends with. As Diana turned back to me at my explosion, I felt my body instantly freeze in fear under her sudden golden gaze.
And one of my men deserves not to be dead. Because of your little secret, this boy managed to lose control to whatever has been possessing him and killed one of my top-ranking officers in order to find my decoy battle plans.
Matthew's gonna feel so bad when he wakes up. I let it sink in. Matthew had killed someone. The influence on him really forced him to kill someone. I couldn't believe it. As Diana released me from her enthrallment, I buckled to my hands and knees, panting for air.
Was hiding this worth it? Was his precious pride truly worth the life of one of my men?
I tried to tell you, Diana. She wouldn't listen to me. Matthew was trying. He was fighting to stop whatever was taking control of him. He needed to do it on his own. Stupid. Stupid, stupid. However, before I could think of speaking back, James and Sam stepped forward in front of me, blocking me from Diana.
Forgive him, Diana. He wasn't in control of himself.
And now you're defending him?
Shut the fuck up! You don't understand what he's been through.
All right, Sam.
And I don't care! One of my men is dead because of him! Controlled or not, it was his hands that took his life. No amount of pride can justify that.
The brothers silenced themselves as I took everything in. Matthew had killed someone. The brothers understood, and Diana had essentially been betrayed. Part of me screamed that this was all my fault. I didn't open my mouth to fix this. And Matthew was being stupid and proud about it. I didn't let anyone know what Matthew was going through. However, Matthew was desperate to do this himself, even though he failed in the end. I lowered my head to the ground, gritting my teeth and trying to stop myself from crying. Carrie and Twila rushed to my side, wrapping their arms over me in an attempt to comfort me. But I couldn't feel anything but despair for what was going on. Apologize. In the end, I mean, it's not entirely your fault. That's dumb to say. This was entirely my fault, and I'm apologizing. I didn't speak up when I should have, and now Matthew was in a cage of sorts, waiting to go through some form of surgery to fix him. I grip the ground and look up at Diana, tears flowing from my eyes. I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry for what happened. Everything was my fault. I began to break down, feeling Carrie and Twilla wrap their arms around me in an attempt to calm me down. Still, I felt horrid, disgusting. The death of one man was entirely because of my silence. This is kind of weird. Silence lingered in the room as Diana continued to bore her eyes into my soul. At last, Diana let out an irritated sigh.
Enough. We need to figure out how to break this hold the Demon Lord has on him.
Everyone in the room seemed to agree. I rubbed my face and slowly stood, agreeing as well, now ready to fix what happened. Diana looked to the guards over her shoulder and barked orders.
A chair, a bucket of sweet flowers, and a knife.
The soldiers nodded and saluted their queen before rushing off. Diana shook her head and placed her hand on the barrier.
What on earth could have made the control so strong?
His mother.
What do you mean? Everyone looked to Damien, seeing him look intensely at his fallen brother with worry. Wouldn't Damien be able to read my mind? Okay, I need to stop picking apart the plot.
I can hear her voice, pleading with him to wake up. She keeps apologizing for making him do what he did.
So his mother is to blame?
No. The Demon Lord is still the one who made him do what he did. The mother was a weakness of his, and only amplified his control.
What? Diana sneered at Matthew's unconscious body as the soldiers from before rushed in and placed the chair beside her and bucket beside it. Diana slowly sat down and crossed her legs, holding out her hand and feeling the knife placed into it by a third guard.
We need to figure out how to block his mind from the Demon Lord's control. Once we do that, we can try to dispel it, while the Demon Lord's power isn't using Matthew's energy.
Taking a purple peach-shaped fruit from the large basket, Diana began to peel and slice it open, revealing a black center. However, her focus remained on Matthew.
It will take me some time, but I think I can manage it.
This girl
Are
has
you
to
sure?
deal with so much. It's ridiculous.
I am. Everyone may go and sleep.
Everyone slowly nodded and began to leave the room. I, however, stood still, not wanting to leave Matthew alone. As Diana noticed me, she glared softly.
Go to your room and rest. I will call you if something happens.
Thank you. Her words were venomous, warning me of the thin line I was walking across. As she placed a fruit slice in her mouth, I conceded defeat and left the room, staring at Matthew with utter worry before I exited. That night, I slept alone. I was filled with different emotions. Worry, sadness, anger, betrayal, horror. Everything mixed and danced within me as I let out a heavy sigh. This would be a long night. I was barely able to eat or leave my room the following 2 days. I stayed in my room, trying to calm down and take everything in. Matthew was a prisoner, and Diana had to pull the control out of him somehow. How was she going to do that? I couldn't be sure, but I was certain that this was going to be a large challenge, especially since the Demon Lord was involved. The other wives visited me, helping me eat and go through what I had trained. However, my mind focused on Matthew. I was worried sick for him. I wanted him to be free, and I wanted him to be okay. Why aren't the boys hanging out with me? Are they training? What are the wives doing during the day? I wonder these things. Anyway, I knew that this wasn't the case for the moment, but I knew that it had to happen eventually. After all, we were a day away from marching on the siege. I gripped my hair and closed my eyes, trying to remember if there was anything I did to help stop the control. I was there for him, but it slowly dawned on me. I was there for him. His love for me was what kept him focused. I was there each time he lost control, and I managed to bring him down from that. It was something, a risky something, but something nonetheless. Let's go save him! Oh, he looks really sad again. I hope that she's not being too mean. She looks very unimpressed with the Demon Lord. I rushed out of the room and into the grand hall, seeing Diana continue to stare into the barrier. Inside, however, was Matthew sitting cross-legged and smirking at Diana. Matthew. Diana and Matthew looked over at me, surprised to see me enter.
Human, what are you?
Human. I have a name. I ignored Diana and continued forward, standing in front of the barrier and staring into Matthew's eyes. Matthew, it's me. Wake up and get a hold of yourself. Matthew stared in shock at me before smirking and crawling over with a pout.
Aw, is the little human upset that she can't get fucked by her incubus?
Excuse me? I should slap your face. You are not Matthew. But I get the feeling the voice actor is really enjoying being evil Matthew. I had to ignore him. The Demon Lord was taunting me, tempting me to get angry. Still, I concentrated on Matthew's eyes, knowing Matthew was in there somewhere. Matthew, I know you're there. You can fight this. I know you can. I could see a small glimmer in Matthew's eyes, proving that I was right. I smiled and pressed my hands against the walls of the barrier, trying to press myself against the magic blocking Matthew from me. Listen to me. You can stop this. You can do this yourself. I began to fill with hope. Despite my words also reaching the Demon Lord, Matthew was also listening, and I could only hope that my love was fueling his need to stop his father's control. The barrier beneath my hands slowly began to desolidify as my body slowly pressed into the wall. And suddenly barrel rolled inside? No! Uh-oh. Oh, he's pink. I love it. I bet if I hadn't loved him enough, I would totally die right now. I looked up, finding myself inside the barrier somehow, looking around and seeing Matthew staring at me intensely. I gulped, knowing that the Demon Lord was still there, running Matthew's every moment, every word that ran from his lips. Still, I believed in him. I slowly stood up and walked over, opening my arms for him. Matthew, I love you, and I'm here for you. Please break through this and come back to me. He's like, what? I don't understand. Slowly, Matthew walked forward, shakily reaching out his hands for me. I could see the desperation in his eyes as he tried to listen. Yes, that was it. Come on. Come on, Matthew. Come on. I just imagined him doing this little, Bambi giraffe walk. I walked forward and held his hands before feeling them slide up to my cheeks, warming my face with his palms.
You.
For a moment, a glimmer of his blue eyes filled my heart with joy. I gripped his hands, desperate for him to hang on and fight. Finally, Matthew gritted his teeth and released my face, gripping his head.
Get out of my head!
Yeah, Matthew! I rushed over, wrapping my arms around his back as Matthew sank to his knees, digging his fingers into his hair. I could hear Diana trying to see what was going on, but my body managed to block her view. Matthew looked up to the wall and snarled.
Get out!
Matthew shouted at the sky, arching back and releasing a large red wave of energy from his body. It zipped into the air and broke free of the barrier, circling over the ceiling like a thundercloud. In quick response, Diana pointed her hands out and formed a large purple orb in her hand before tossing it at the energy, capturing it in another cage and letting it hit the ground, locked inside. Yeah, Demon Lord, try to possess my boyfriend, I will punch you out. My focus, however, was on Matthew. He panted and coughed, clasping over his neck and chest in pain as he shut his eyes tightly. I barely noticed the sound of Matthew's brothers and their wives running in to see what had happened. Oh, Matthew. I lifted Matthew in my arms and caught his eyes as he opened them, seeing the man I loved once again back in my arms. Matthew? Matthew very slowly let a grin run across his face as he lifted a hand and cupped my cheek.
Hey, beautiful.
Oh, we need to hear that again.
Hey, beautiful.
Someone needs to make that my ringtone. Anyway, lovely to have you back, Matthew. Lovely to have you back. My breath hitched as I quickly fell forward and wrapped my arms around Matthew, uncaring that the barrier around us was also slowly being dispelled by Diana. Matthew wrapped his arms around my form, hugging me tightly and kissing over my neck.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, that's actually what she says. The moment seemed to last forever. A private world filled with me and Matthew in each other's arms, desperate not to let go. However, Diana's voice caused us to slowly separate and look up at her.
Not that I care that I am breaking this moment apart, but we have more important things to do than this.
Diana? Diana rolled her eyes and looked up at took up the orb that held Demon Lord's control energy, staring into it with a piercing gaze.
I will take care of this, but I'm positive that this is not all of it. After all, he did control you enough to kill.
I felt myself slump over. She really wasn't going to forgive him, but she was right. The Demon Lord's control was ultra powerful. Who knew how much control he really had? Diana sighed and willed the orb away into the air before looking to us.
Well then, I've spent enough time fixing this. Now I must prepare for a war. Excuse me.
She's so calm. She has had to do a bunch of stuff. Diana nodded to us and left without another word. Matthew, however, grinned at me and nuzzled my forehead. He probably doesn't even know he killed a guy.
I guess I really did need saving after all.
I told you, Matthew. I told you. But I'm here, don't worry. I'll still pat your head and give you hugs and cake. I shook my head, knowing that was not true. I was there to help, not there to save. I kissed Matthew's cheek and he smiled. I only helped you do it on your own. You broke his control over you, not me. We chuckled for each other, slowly standing and happy to be in each other's arms at last. James, however, stepped forward with a frown, causing Matthew to release me.
Matthew, I apologize for not being a proper brother for you and treating you with the respect you deserved. I would never want you to not trust me or the others.
I think he kind of almost trusts you. In agreement, the other brother stepped up and nodded, ashamed as well. Matthew stared at all of them in shock before kissing my cheek and stepping towards them.
Hey. You're my brothers. We're supposed to support and protect each other, right?
Right. All 5 of them smiled at each other as I felt myself needing to rest once more. I held the wall, slightly maintaining my balance as I shook my head and looked up at the brothers, seeing them happily rekindle the brotherly love they had before. I looked to the wives, winking before sneaking out. Matthew needed some time with his brothers to settle some differences. I would wait for him in the room. Brotherly love.
So, we're all in agreement?
Oh no, Rabbit's gonna start a ruckus. But I think that's all the time I have for today, so we will try to make sure nobody gets killed besides Mr. Guard. And maybe, I don't know, maybe we can bring him back. I don't know. The demon world is a complicated place. I hope you are having a wonderful Labor Day, if you celebrate that day. I hope you're not like me and have to work on Labor Day. And I hope that you stay sweet. Bye.